Hey everybody, this is Jim at SB500chart.com. It's a little bit after 6 o'clock on April 26, 2020. Hey, it's Melania Trump's birthday, and guess what? It's my birthday too. All right, now that's out of the way, let me remind you the website and the video are for educational purposes only. Nothing stated at the site or in the video is intended to be used as investment advice. I control lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research and make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. I'm not a licensed financial professional. I'm just a guy who draws lines on charts. So let's see what happened last week. Well, looking here on a 30-minute chart, you see the major things that we have been talking about. We had this sort of huge sort of looked like a broadening pattern, but there was this smaller broadening thing here that then sort of started to find a little rounding bottom, if you could say that, in free fall. But what I mean is we didn't come back down to this line here. It just started to firm up. And then we broke out over this trend line. We broke out obviously over this trend line. Then we got ourselves back over that longer term line of support that we had been under for almost a month. Over the past couple of weeks, we identified what appears to be an ascending wedge. That's the question. I think this is a true trend line up here because we got lots of touches. But I'm not so sure that this is correct. And the reason is twofold. A lot of times the actual trend line that you end up with does not include the extreme low of a bottoming process. Second of all, when we broke through it last week, we just didn't act as if it was. Usually a rising wedge, when it breaks, it sort of pours out of the end of it like a torrent. So we're not seeing that. Instead, we're just kind of seeing some sideways action now for a little bit more than 2 weeks. And it doesn't seem to be behaving like a rising wedge. However, at this point, this is still the best trend line I've got for this. So I'm waiting. If we set a new high, let's say this week we end up with a 100-point gain. I'm not saying we will, but if we did, then I would have to be forced to say, well, maybe we look at something more like that, or even something more like that, at which point it starts to look more like a parallel channel. But I'm not prepared to make that change just yet. We're going to keep it where it is. As you can see, we had a week in which we gapped down on Tuesday, but then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, really we held pretty much right in the same area that we had been. And given the volatility that we've experienced over the last few weeks, I think that's probably a pretty good testament here. Look at all those little gaps. A gap up, a gap up, a gap down, a gap up, a gap down, a gap up. Then 3 days, no gaps. Before, we were gapping every day or every other day. So, I don't know, maybe that's a sign that things are starting to maybe settle down just a little bit. Another reminder is that I am open to this being a cup and handle pattern. This would be the cup, this would be the handle. That measures out to a target of about 3170. So we're not there yet. Matter of fact, that's about 240, not quite, 235 points away. That's a pretty good bit, a bit to go. Yeah, wait a minute, 200 and, what did I say? Never mind, it's a good bit. 3170, 170, about 330, about 335 points away. So, do I have a lot to offer this week? Not really, because if you look at things, where were we at the end of last week? Well, we were at $28.70s. Where are we now? $28.36. The only thing that happened this past week is we're now on the bottom side of this admittedly somewhat iffy trend line. So it's a short and sweet video for the weekly review. Just a reminder, inverted cup and, not inverted, just regular cup and handle, target up around 31.70 or so. In order for us to entertain an idea of that really significant target up in the 3800s, we're going to have to see a little bit more develop out of this chart. So, that said, I believe the COVID-19 new daily deaths will probably be on the overall decrease from this point forward. I would, if you're interested, look to Georgia, South Carolina, and Tennessee to see where things head as they begin to lift some of the restrictions on their economies. I'm in Georgia, so I have an interest in it. I need a haircut. But other than that, I would say watch that. And also, let's just keep watching the markets together. Again, I think we're beholden to the news to a large degree. But I see some signs here that the markets are now absorbing all the fear that was present back through the month of March. And it looks like they're trying to, what's a good way to put it? Trying to restore some degree of normalcy as people once again try to find a way to put their money to work. And where else are you going to go other than U.S. equities? So anyway, hey, thanks for taking time out of your weekend to watch this. And as always, thanks for your very kind support. Take care.